Welcome, Hudson Valley, to this week's edition of In Touch, the public affairs and issues program that runs across Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley radio stations. With us this week is Jeffrey Sasson, Executive Director of the Mid-Hudson Discovery Museum. The Mid-Hudson Children's Museum is going through a rebranding, adding new exhibits and expanding its programs to wider age demographics, with bright plans for the future. We will be discussing the integration between in-school formal education and creative informal out-of-school education. Jeffrey Sasson talks about the legacy of the Mid-Hudson Children's Museum and how it is rebranding itself as a Discovery Museum. We'll touch on creating hands-on, engaging environments for children of all ages and the significance that interactive learning has to students, teachers, and parents alike. We invite you to join us and listen to a previously recorded conversation between Jeffrey Sasson and myself here on In Touch. Hello, Hudson Valley. You are listening to another episode of In Touch, the public affairs and issues program brought to you by Townsquare Media of the Hudson Valley. I'm your host, Connor Walsh, and with me today, got someone very, very special. We have the Executive Director of the Mid-Hudson Children's Museum, Jeff Sasson. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing great today. How are you today?
Doing very well. Really happy to have you here. I just want to say the Children's Museum was so impactful for me as I was growing up. I remember going there on field trips, birthday parties, various different events that you guys held, and I can still remember some very clearly. I remember there was this puppet show that I saw years ago. The Children's Museum meant so much to me as it did so many of my friends growing up. Calling it the Children's Museum, it doesn't feel right anymore because you guys are doing something really exciting for the future of the building and the program, and hence why we have you on today. So could you tell us about this recent rebranding that you guys are up to?
Yeah, so just recently we reopened after 2 years of closure. We opened in May, and COVID hit all the not-for-profits pretty hard. During the close down time, the board of directors had been in a strategic planning session, and for years we had served children 0 through 6. And looking at the landscape of STEM and education, public education, and children's performance in school, the board was thinking, what else can we do to better reach out to the children that we serve? And out of that planning and strategic ideation period, they came up with the idea that they should be expanding the range of children they serve, the age range. So instead of 0 through 6, it's now 0 through 12. The name change reflects the new exhibits that we have here. So also during that closed down period, we had done a capital campaign. We used a good amount of those funds to purchase hands-on science exhibits here now. So there's 17 exhibits that we have on the floor. They all demonstrate different science phenomena. They have activities included in them, so they're mechanical. And every time you manipulate these machines and different exhibits, there is a different outcome. So it's not like you do it once and you're done. So it involves a child's imagination, and they investigate and they try it out.
No, but that's fantastic, everything that you guys have been building up. Now, you said it's been on hiatus here for 2 years. Is that really mainly to do with the pandemic, or were there other things that kind of happened coincidentally at the same time? Run us through that timeline, please.
That's a pretty good question, actually. So it was largely due to COVID, but actually it sort of worked out because during that time is when we did the museum renovation as well. So it was during that time that we took the entire second floor, gutted the museum, gutted the second floor, and we installed a new science exhibit. So that in itself was a good 1 year of the process. Nobody knew COVID was coming. The board had in mind that there was a way to step up our game and contribute more to the immediate region. And then COVID came along at the same time. So, like I said, it gave the board and management time to sit back and prepare for this. And it's a timely addition. It's a timely change. I mean, we're coming out of STEM education. We're coming out of COVID now. And you've heard it on radio, on TV, in the newspapers. I mean, test scores have dropped on children. This is a generation that's really been impacted by COVID in their educational performance. So us ratcheting up our game, we're in such a much better position now to serve the children of the area.
No, that's very good. So here, the Mid-Hudson Children's Museum has been such a big staple in the Hudson Valley for a long time. 33 years, correct? Is that correct?
33 years. And let me tell you a little story. When you started off that you came here as a child.
Yeah.
Every day I wear a name tag lanyard. I proudly display it. I never take it off during the daytime. I put it on in the morning before I come to work. I take it off when I get home. So I'm going out to stores during the daytime, picking up supplies or maybe picking up a cup of coffee. Maybe at the end of the day, I'm going out for a bite to eat. But I don't even think about wearing the lanyard. But people say, oh, the Children's Museum. They recognize it right off the bat. They say, I went there as a child. My parents took me there as a child. Or I take my children there now. The love in the community for the museum is just overwhelming.
Oh, I'm sure. It really has been such a staple in so many people's lives. And as I said, I remember a lot of things vividly. And I remember one time in particular playing around in like this firehouse area that you had where you can put on all the firemen's clothes. That was really cool. I don't know. That was like one of the most exciting things. I think like 3 birthday parties in a row I ran over there in particular. It was like always just running over there. But there's so many wonderful things there. Can you go into specifics for us about the new additions? Now, with all the STEM that you're offering, it's a part of this whole program called Science Revealed, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me just go back for 1 second though until I go on to Science Revealed. Mm-hmm. That fire engine area, and I'll speak specifically about that because you brought that up.
Yeah, go for it.
It's an area. It's an area where children come together and they act out, and parents engage with them, and that's the magic of this kind of museum is that parents engage with their children in make believe. Children engage with other children, and they learn how to socialize with other children. So although some people may think some of the stuff is simple, it's so important in the development of a child. And you'll see that down there. So, yes, the fire engine area is still there.
Fantastic.
And the kids they flock to it. So it's a wonderful thing.
Also, is the Yellow Submarine still there, too?
No, the Yellow Submarine is gone. That was on the second floor.
Yep.
Yeah, that was. I never saw it, but I've only heard about the things. I heard there was a mastodon here too.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah. So all of those things are gone. The second floor is almost completely redone.
Gotcha. Well, that gives like a whole new impression and a whole new era for a whole new sense of kids. And I know I asked about the STEM, and we'll get to that again in a little bit. But you mentioned how test scores are down, and I've also been a camp counselor for years now, and working with the kids in the last 2 years. It's interesting to see the dynamic shift when it comes to how they interact with each other, how they interact with the counselors. It's so much different than when I started being a counselor 10 years ago, where there is a sense of being timid. There's a sense of lack of structure. They're not necessarily interacting the same way. And the pandemic really hit hard that way. I have a friend of mine who said, I think their kid is in second grade, and it wasn't until recently that their teachers finally saw them without a mask on, and that was just mind-blowing, to think about. That's what they were used to.
It's interesting you said that. When we had an event here last Thursday night to celebrate the rebranding of the museum, and we had a good group of supporters here, and we also had Mayor Allison, and we also had Dr. Eric Rosser, the superintendent of Poughkeepsie City Schools. And he said that exact same thing. As he's looking out on the audience, he said, it's so nice to see people and see their faces because we all got too used to seeing a mask on people. So it's just funny you brought that point up.
Yeah, honestly, just being able to see somebody's face and see their smile. Obviously, the eyes show so much, but just getting that full experience and that full connection with somebody, it makes a difference, especially for children that young when they're still reading everybody and they're still getting those cues. It's so important to their development to be able to get that. And something like the Children's Museum here, where you're able to express yourself in a variety of different ways with other children, it's only going to make that development even better, especially with the time that we've lost.
Sure. And talking about that interaction, I'm also glad you brought that up, because I hope this COVID experience helps restart schools thinking about field trips. When I was a child, I went on many field trips, and I remember them all. I remember the planetarium in New York City and each meteorite that was on the floor at the Hayden Planetarium. Over the years, unfortunately, the trend has been for schools to be teaching to the test, and they've gotten away from school trips. And school trips are, we occupy the space of informal education as compared to formal education.
Yeah.
So as an informal educator here, we're the experience, right? We're the ones who give the kids the spark, the imagination. We feed their curiosity. And I hope that school administrations, the PTOs, the PTAs, get back out there and start putting kids on the buses again and bring them to the museums, bring them to the cultural destinations, bring them to the places where they can be with other kids and they can learn at the same time. Because chances are they're going to go home and remember a lot about that, and it may influence how they take an interest in science or engineering, math, technology. It's just a wonderful thing for a childhood experience. No,
absolutely. That's interesting that you say that schools have been, steering away from that, even besides COVID. Now, I was in elementary school in the early 2000s, and I feel like we still got that really great experience about going out and enjoying those field trips. But it's interesting, as you said, educating for those test scores. I saw that just as I was leaving, just as I was getting out, I feel like the avalanche was happening behind me, but it never hit me. So that's interesting that you say that, across the board, they're not looking into that. Even before COVID, that seemed to be the trend?
Oh, absolutely. So let me put it into context for you. So I had been for a good number of years at the Liberty Science Center in New Jersey, in Jersey City. And I had gotten there in 2008. And I'm a numbers person. I mean, I always look back, and see how things performed and see what they were performing for and how. And I had looked at the books at Liberty Science Center. So if I went back to the late 90s and 2001, 2002, they had school trips. Now, remember, this is a large museum. So they were doing some 200,000 field trips, school trips a year. By the time I got there, they were down to less than 100,000 school trips per year. 66% drop. I mean, because they did peak at 300. But just put that into your head and say, gosh, 50% down. And you call the school districts and they would say, we don't have it in our budget. We can't afford it. Or we're teaching the kids to the test. They wouldn't say teaching to the test, but they would say the way that we have to teach the curriculum now is we don't have the time to get out of the school anymore.
Wow.
And that trend continues. And, when you go to the different museum association meetings, annual meetings across the country, you heard that from every science museum and every museum out there, that field trips were declining.
Wow. That's really heartbreaking to hear.
It's heartbreaking. It truly is. I agree with you.
Wow. You've been listening to In Touch. We are still talking with Jeff Sasson with the Mid-Hudson Discovery Museum. We've been talking about their rebranding along with how the trends in field trips and child education has been going pre and post-pandemic. Now, it's fascinating how you're saying here that trends on field trips are going down. So you just had this big reveal. You had this big celebration with a number of local leaders, whether it be in government and in the educational system. What was the response from these people? Does it look like we're going to have a greater engagement again? How have those conversations been going?
So when I spoke with Dr. Eric Rosser, and we lightly spoke about what we're looking to do here, he is totally welcoming. He's making time for me to meet with him. We're going to meet with some of his faculty, and we're going to think out and plan out how we can insert ourselves and be of greater support to his area. Same thing with Dr. Moyer from the Arlington School District, looking very much forward to working with the museum.
No, that's great. I think along with the pandemic, and I would love to see your opinion on this, there's a greater desire to get out and do some things because we were sheltered for so long. And now people of any age group, whether children or adults, just simply want to do a little bit more. Maybe not on huge scales and very elaborate, people might have in the past, but they still want to find that excitement. They want to find that growth, and they want to just be out because we've been stuck inside for 2 years. Do you see that also happening at the same time?
Oh, absolutely. So the museum, we don't have a large marketing budget here, unfortunately. That's one of the things I need to do is grow our revenue base, both contributed and earned, so that there can be a more comprehensive and strategic marketing effort here. So we reopened in May. We've had no budget. It's been all word of mouth. So we had some very, very good summer days, some very good summer weeks. But the days that we had good weather, all the families were outside. So it was sort of a double-edged sword. So if people are going out, we see that, we hear that, they tell us that. But when it's nice out, they stay out.
Understandable. I see that. Now, whether there's good weather or bad weather, a lot is going to happen with the Discovery Museum. We were teasing this before with Science Revealed. Can you go into some of the specifics on what you guys offer and why these kids and families should be experiencing these new exhibits?
Okay, so one of them is a turn vortex. A vortex is a whirling movement that happens in water and air. And in a vortex such as the one created that we have here with this exhibit, the fluid spirals down as it more tightly together towards the center. And by turning, we have a handle, and you sit here and you're cranking this handle, and you're getting speed out of the water. And the liquid is pulled in a circular motion, which pulls down the center. And there's an object in the center at the top of the water. So as you create this vortex, and you start to understand and witness this vortex, the ball comes all the way down to the bottom. So, it's engaging, right? You're doing an activity, and you can see the results of your activity, but you're also starting to understand the science phenomena at the same time.
No, I really like that. I think kids would get really involved with that. From what you said, you guys been open since May, right? And has that been like one of the more popular ones that the kids are gravitating towards?
There's something called the standing rope, which is really pretty cool. And there's a motor, and there's a crank for it also, and they can regulate the speed. But what this demonstrates is that without gravity, this rope stands up in the air. And then you can manipulate it into different shapes. And it's every time you do it, you get a different result. And that's what you want to see. So you can distort it, you can speed it up, you can slow it down, and you do the wrong things and it caves in. And bingo, gravity takes over.
That's really cool. I can imagine, kids seeing that. It kind of shows you, how there are quote unquote basic rules that we are to learn, but then there are things that, in order to find the true breakthroughs, some of those rules you need to start to break in all the right ways. And that's like the first thing that I'm thinking of when you're telling me about this is like, oh my God, that's so cool. I could see myself just spending some time on it as well. That's great.
So, and again, these are the kinds of things, kids come here, they can experience it nowhere else. They do it here. And it sparks, their curiosity. it feeds their curiosity, and maybe they're home Googling ideas that surround that science. You don't know where it's going to take them, but it's going to take them someplace.
No, truly. Now, you guys are also working on some stuff outside with the Pavilion area, correct? You guys are looking to expand on what you have out there, right?
Oh, yes. We have a 7,700 square foot outdoor pavilion, and it's only feet from the shores of the Hudson. You can hear the water lapping up on the shore. It's
truly beautiful. For anybody who hasn't been down there, I love walking down there, just seeing it all. Gorgeous.
Yes, and actually, sometimes we rent it out for people that want to have weddings or big occasions because it's just a spectacular scenic view. We're between the two bridges, between the walkway over the Hudson. We're right at the base of the walkway over the Hudson. As a matter of fact, their elevator comes down into the park next to us, so people could do the walkway over the Hudson and do the Children's Museum or the Discovery Museum the same day. And then to the other side, you can see the Mid-Hudson Bridge. So it's a beautiful location. But we do a farmers market here every Monday from May through October. It's the only children's museum in the United States that has such a program. And as a matter of fact, we have a large federal grant. I shouldn't say large, but meaningful federal grant to help us enclose the market and turn it into 3 or 4 days a week because the USDA has designated Poughkeepsie City as a food desert. We have many families at risk here. Nutrition, healthy eating is elusive. And we're looking to also at some point install a commercial kitchen inside the pavilion so that we can teach healthy cooking.
Oh, wow.
But we're going to have a science van on the road very soon where we can go to schools. And one of the programs will be to do demonstrations of healthy cooking. The children will get to see how to cook healthy. They'll get to taste some of the food. And we may give them bags of food to take home with a recipe so they can start teaching their parents some healthy cooking techniques. So, yeah, the pavilion is a big growth strategy for us, but it's also another way of us helping the people that we serve.
That's terrific. I really love that. One thing that I always got to enjoy with my grandmother in particular, she loved baking and she loved cooking, and I would help her out in the kitchen, but whenever I'd go over. But it's not like I did it on a very consistent basis. It wasn't until college that I really learned to cook, and I wish that I had an opportunity sooner. And that's cool that you guys are offering those resources to be able to learn and to experience it firsthand and show how capable you can be at any age to really start working on this stuff. That's great.
Absolutely. Yes. And to get the caregivers and get the parents involved too. So now, you're sort of completing the circle of, you'll have a child going to the grocery store with the parents, and the child's going to start pointing out the healthier foods to eat, to buy, to cook, to come home and eat, and put around the table. So we're very excited about it. Right now, I'm at the point of looking for quotes to get an idea of how much it's going to cost. We want to put large glass garage doors on the pavilion so that we can, extend the season of its use and hold more activities and hold the farmers markets even into the colder months.
That'd be terrific. Yeah, no, that'd be a great way to be able to extend that. You guys have been listening to In Touch, Hudson Valley's Public Affairs and Issues program. We have been talking with Jeff Sasson here with the Mid-Hudson Discovery Museum. Now, one thing that you just mentioned that before we wrap things up, I really want to touch on this. It helps relieve the parents and guardians. And that's not something we've been focusing on, and we've been talking about the children. But the parents, something like this must be such a relief and also educational experience for the parents to show them what they can do as well, right?
Yeah, you really hit on something important because too much today, parents don't know how to engage in their child's education. They feel like outsiders often. They're a little bit awkward. schools and have changed since they went to school, and they feel that they're somewhat on the outside. And we're looking to give parents an on-ramp to be more and more of the child's education so they can support them, so they can understand what the workload is and how to give them air cover for their studies or to find out where the child may be struggling with concepts, so get them help and so forth. So on the one hand, this is the museum is a great place for parents and children to engage together, but it's also serving as for caregivers to help be a partner in the education of their child.
Could you just back up just a tiny bit? We had a little bit of disconnection there. You were talking about how it's great for the kids, and then we kind of lost you. I'm sorry.
Okay. It's for the parents. A museum like this, a space like this allows parents, children. Parents often feel like outsiders. They feel awkward about their child's education. They don't know how to partner with them. And an environment like this allows them to start learning, show their children, and begin to support the child in a holistic way towards their education. It's so important today, and you can't find another environment like this.
That's terrific. Jeff, thank you so much for sharing all this. I think this is going to be a great program and great revamp for the children and the parents of the Hudson Valley and educational systems. It's going to be really great to see where this goes, and we hope to have you on again soon to talk about all the wonderful things that this has sparked. Jeff, so is there anything else, how's the best way for people to learn more about the Discovery Museum?
Go on to the internet, go on to mhdm.org, travel through our website, and if you'd like, you can call me here if you have an interest in supporting the museum, because we have a lot to do. We need a lot to do from help from out there. So we're here. We're here for the citizens. We're here for the community, and everything that we can do for them, we're going to. Fantastic. Jeff, thank you so much for being here on In Touch. We really appreciate your time, and we really appreciate your insight. Connor, thank you so much. I truly appreciated this. You have a great day. You as well. This has been this week's edition of In Touch, the public affairs and issues program that runs across Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley radio stations. We want to give a big thank you to Jeffrey Sasson from the Mid-Hudson Discovery Museum for joining us. In Touch is growing, and I'm so excited to share this news with you. On every Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley radio station homepage, so WPDH, WRRV, The Wolf, Light FM, and The Juan, there is a tab specifically for In Touch for you to find episodes and articles. Not just that, but we also have a brand new YouTube channel, along with Facebook and Instagram pages. You can find us on YouTube under In Touch, a Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley production, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at InTouch_HV. Whether you have a topic you want discussed or you want to be a guest, the best way to contact us is through our office number 845-471-1500 or email direct to connor.walsh@townsquaremedia.com. That and all of our new social media. October is nearly at an end, and I want to remind you of my Real Men Wear Pink campaign. Throughout the month of October, campaign ambassadors across the nation are stepping up and using the power of wearing pink to raise funds and draw attention to breast cancer. You can follow my journey and find information on how to support my campaign under the In Touch tag on the app and site of whichever Townsquare Media station you're listening on. I've been your host, Connor Walsh. Until next time, stay curious, keep an open mind, and as always, I'm glad we get to spend some time.